Hey everyone, you're at home with a geek. I'm Mark, aka the Little Black Dude. So something interesting happened to me a few minutes ago. My good friend Brian decided that it was time for me to put my money where my mouth is with something that I said in one of my last videos when I was talking about reboots. He made a comment about Voltron Legendary Defender, which I wanted to check out, but I don't have Netflix. So let me just show you something really important. So there it is. Voltron Legendary Defender. And because Brian was so awesome, I am going to review every episode of Voltron Legendary Defender. And I'm going to do it for you, because you're awesome. So, I'm going to pause this video, and when I come back, I will be talking about the first episode of Voltron Legendary Defender. Okay, so I just finished watching Voltron Legendary Defender Episode 1, and I have a 2-word review. Worth watching. Okay, so let's recap real quick. First off, we start out by meeting some of the pilots, Lance, Hunk, and Pidge. Okay, they're training in the Galaxy Garrison. They're trying to become pilots, all that kind of wonderful stuff. We see that they don't work too well together as a team, so they fail their simulated mission at the beginning of the episode. Well, we get to a good feeling on the kind of personalities of each one of the characters, and I am amused by the fact that they are wholly unlike the characters they're based on, but it works so well I can't be upset. Okay, Lance is still kind of impulsive, kind of self-centered, but he reminds me of Sokka from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I love every minute of it. He feels so fun. I enjoy him as a character so much. Okay, Hunk is a coward the entire time, but he's a coward in such a way that you don't think of him lesser for it. You just realize that he's afraid of how things can go, and he's very cautious. But it's something that you see is a positive thing with him, but he tends to be the comedy relief more than anything else at this point. And then there's Pidge. Pidge is pretty much the same, but there's something different about Pidge for some reason. I think that he's got a little less of the dorky kid thing going on and more of the scientist with a mission. Because we find out that at the beginning of the episode, there is an away team that's doing research on Kerberos, which is one of the moons of Pluto, and the two of the researchers that were on it were his father and his brother. So his whole reasoning for doing everything he's been doing is so that he can find them and bring them home, because he's convinced they're still alive. Well, not long after the tragedy of the simulator, they go out to do some things, gather some mischief, all led by Lance, and Lance talks Hunk into the whole thing. And watching this whole thing transpire between watching Lance and Hunk running around, sneaking around, trying to get out of the facility without getting caught, and them going to get Pidge only to find out Pidge was sneaking out in the first place. It has a lot of American animation to it, but it also feels a lot like an anime series. So it isn't doing what I was expecting it to do. I figured it was going to lean one way or the other, and I'm glad that it's kind of pulling from both ends on this. By the way, DreamWorks animation. Sweet merciful crap. I love these people even more now than I did before. They head out to do a little bit of mischief, but they end up following Pidge out onto the roof of the facility, where Pidge is testing out some of the equipment that he built in his spare time, trying to listen to chatter on the outskirts of the universe. Well, come to find out, he had been monitoring all these transmissions to find out where his father and brother are, and keeps hearing one word that's being said over and over again in all of the transmissions: Voltron. Come to find out, the reason that was happening is because one of the lions, the blue lion of Voltron, was on Earth. They find it by trying to distract the researchers that were following it, and well, it doesn't go exactly how they want, but it definitely works out. You see, they are trying to come up with a plan on how to distract everybody that's out there. And as they're saying, well, we need a distraction, a bunch of explosions go off. Come to find out, it is another of the eventual pilots of the Lions, Keith. Keith is a bit more of a hothead in this than he was in the original series from the 80s, but I have to say I like him, and the rivalry between him and Lance is played up right from the beginning, because Lance is only in the piloting position that he has now because Keith had a discipline problem and flunked out of the Galaxy Garrison. So the two of them are button heads from the very beginning. They have a harrowing chase, they survive it, on Keith's piloting skills, and then they find out where things are going. During all of this mischief here, the third person from the Kerberos mission, a man named Shiro, who only has a limited memory of where he's been for the past year, is trying to convince everybody that had taken him in of what is happening and why. They don't want to listen to him because they think he's crazy. They think that he's been compromised by the aliens, so of course they don't want to hear it. These four were able to rescue him. Keith was the main one, and Lance was like, nope, no. You are not getting to rescue him. I am. So of course they're fighting over the glory and all that. They make their way to Keith's living space there. I want to say hideout, but it really doesn't fit. And they find that he's basically been living in the desert trying to find whatever it was that was drawing him in, which happened to be the Blue Lion. When they get there, they see the lion sitting inside a force field. Keith walks up to it and tries to push his way through, can't get through it. Lance taps on the force field, just being a goofball, and it opens up for him. They all get inside the Blue Lion and they start taking off. They fly out into space and they head through a wormhole, which brings them to the planet Eris. This is where they find the Palace of Lions, and it looks so good in comparison to the old Palace of Lions, which was very blocky and it was very solid. It looked like something out of a European myth. This Palace of Lions has a little bit more of an organic / futuristic look to it, and it guides them to where Princess Allura and her attendant Karan, if I'm not mistaken, have been in stasis for 10,000 years. She then explains to the 5 now paladins who are to pilot the lions what it is that they need to do, where they need to find the lions, and how they can get the 4 back to the Palace of Lions in order to activate the Black Lion. She assigns each one to the lions, and you can kind of see where they're fitting in. I love the designs of these lions. They look like the old lions, but they look so much better. The CG that they used for the lions, they did such a good job with. It blends perfectly with the 2D animation as well. It looks gorgeous. Every one of them has personality to them. There's expression in their faces. They each have a good detail to them, and they all have this look of, I may be a machine, but I have life in me. It makes you want to see just how they connect. Well, the Green Lion and the Yellow Lion were pretty easy to find. The planets that they were on are fairly peaceful, although there was some combat involved in getting the Yellow Lion. But the Red Lion had already been captured by Zarkon's minions, the people of the Galra Empire, who had just shown up to take on the planet of Eris and try and take the Black Lion. Well, this is where it gets interesting. They infiltrate the ship that these guys are on. They go in, they find the Red Lion. Keith is supposed to pilot the Red Lion, but it doesn't respond to him at first. It doesn't want to open for him, but ends up saving his life when he opens the airlock in order to get rid of the drones that were trying to kill him. They are able to get the Red Lion back down to the planet and unlock the door for the Black Lion. So all 5, Shiro, Keith, Lance, Hunk, and Pidge, each have their own lions, their own suits of armor corresponding to their colors, and weapons called Bayards, which adapt to them, to adapt to whoever is holding it. So each one has a unique weapon. Hunk has this big freaking cannon, Lance has a blaster, Keith has a sword and shield, and Pidge has a hand blade, but it's electrified. It's pretty freaking cool. Shiro doesn't have a Bayard, and we find out why later on, because his right arm is cybernetic, and he has an energy weapon built into it, which is pretty cool. But he doesn't know how to use it. He doesn't even know how he has it. We find out that he had gotten it, but doesn't know what happened, when some of the prisoners refer to him as the champion. So, as we get to the final scene there, we get a chance to see the entire team getting ready to go into battle. They're trying to form Voltron, and they're having trouble doing so. They can't connect. They can't get the Alliance to respond. And they get caught in a tractor beam from the giant ship that came to destroy the planet and the Palace of Lions. So they're sitting there. They're sucked in. They don't know what to do. They're all ready to give up. And Shiro gives this crazy-ass speech, you know, basically saying, you know what, we're the hope of the universe. We cannot give up. We won't give up, and we won't fail if we work together. And suddenly, all 5 of them just activate and go in different directions. And then they start the fusion sequence, which I friggin' love. Love it so much because it is the classic sequence, but it isn't the classic sequence. Watching the formation, you get to see the detail with it without losing the immediacy of what's going on. In the old series, it had its own riff, and there was a whole thing: form feet and legs, form arms and torso, and I'll form the head, which I loved as a kid, but it would have been really out of place with the way this show is done. Long story short, they fuse into Voltron, and the cannon that was about to fire and destroy the Palace of Lions misses, because Voltron punches the side of the freaking thing, and he's just sitting there like, yeah, no big deal, saying no thing, grabs hold of it, tears the freaking cannon off, and just starts representing left and right, destroys the freaking ship, and then just lands as it explodes behind it, just badass, just ready to roll. It was awesome to watch that. However, the best part about this is the way they ended the episode. The 5 lions are landed, the 5 paladins exit, and Allura very seriously says, you've won this battle, but the war's not over yet. And of course, we've got this whole thing going on where they're like, oh yeah, well, you know, we were able to form Voltron, but it was kind of tough. And Karan, who I am convinced is supposed to also be comedy relief, just starts going off talking about, you only fused once, you're gonna have to do that a whole bunch of more times, and imagine you were just fighting one ship, imagine when you're fighting a whole fleet. So it starts making, you know, a hunk panic a little bit, which is kind of funny, but they've got kind of an idea of how everything's supposed to work, so they're ready to roll. Overall, I enjoyed this. It is a reboot that is done well, which is something I want to see more of. Come on, man, let's get us a Silverhawks reboot. But I am going to review every episode of this series. I'm going to try and watch one episode every day, try and put a review up. Hopefully they won't be as long as this one. But until next time, this is the little black dude. Stay geek and proud.